Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 7 of our F1 2004 career mode. Yes, we return this weekend here to Montreal and the Canadian Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live a few days ago from Baku, of course, for the European race, I would highly recommend going back and check it out. It's safe to say, as we approach the halfway stage of this season, it has been a very, very exciting campaign so far. We currently hold a slim 7-point lead over Michael Schumacher at the top of the standings, but Ralf Schumacher in P3 has got a little bit of momentum behind him. Fernando Alonso, Juan Pablo Montoya as well, not a million miles away, and you can make the argument that both McLarens and even the BARs are pretty competitive as well at this stage of the season. Now, it has been a very, very different story for different drivers so far. We are still the only double winner this season, obviously taking victory back in Bahrain and Monaco, but yeah, apart from that, we've had some up and down results. Michael Schumacher finally bagged his and Ferrari's first win last weekend out in Baku, but it's been Ralf Schumacher that has been the really consistent driver. Third, fourth for him. I don't know how he's managing it, but I cannot wait to see how long he can keep that momentum up for. However, I'm a little bit nervous now. We've come off the back of a bit of a high downforce stretch of races early on this season. Canada, France, Austria, Silverstone, Belgium and Italy are all going to be very low downforce, very, very power sensitive circuits, with just the Hungaroring kind of in there to split it up. So I'm very, very nervous that we're going to start struggling over the course of the next few races. Of course, if you're new as well, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. We're getting closer and closer to 150,000 subs here on the channel as well. And of course, if you want early access to these videos, you can click the join button down below. It costs just £1 a month. It's a great way to support the work we do here. But yeah, without further ado then, let's return here to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Well, here we are then, ready for one-shot qualifying from the Canadian Grand Prix, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And of course, I'm sure Jacques will be wanting a good result this weekend, but yeah, like I said, of course, this Toyota, we did learn in Baku that it can reach some good top-end speed. It just maybe takes a little bit longer to get there than, you know, the likes of your Ferraris, or, you know, your Williams BMWs or your McLaren Mercedes as well. So we'll have to wait and see as to how we get on. That being said, though, I really love this circuit. It's so fun to thrash around in this old generation of V10 Formula 1 car as well, where you can get on the throttle so early on corner exit. It is really, really good fun there, but of course you've got to keep it balanced. You've got to attack the curbs, and you've got to avoid doing that, just skimming the wall as we make our way through the exit of Sector 2. But at the moment then, we're actually currently fastest on the board, still yet to set a pole lap so far this year. Obviously narrowly missed out in Monte Carlo, and then had to fight my way through when we got into the Grand Prix. Just like Baku, running very, very low wing around this circuit as well. But there goes one of the Schumacher brothers down in towards the final couple of corners. They're really attacking the curbs nice and tidy. Can we get the run on the way towards the line? It is going to be so, so close. I think we've gone and done it.
Fantastic. You've got pole.
Well, there we go then. That was a very, very unexpected result here in Montreal. Pole position, just 7/100ths of a second clear of Michael Schumacher. Kimi Räikkönen lining up P3 just ahead of Fisichella and Ralf Schumacher there. So, I mean, 7 cars covered by less than half a second is pretty good going. As always, Williams, McLaren, Ferrari and Toyota all seem to be in the mix. BAR may be struggling a little bit more than we were expecting here, and Fernando Alonso, a pretty terrible effort by him when all is said and done. But all of a sudden then, I was very nervous about heading to more of the the high-speed circuits inside this game. Maybe we can fight for the championship.
Bonjour! It's time once again to go racing here in Montreal, the second largest French-speaking city in the world, and home since 1978 to the Canadian Grand Prix. We'll be seeing top speeds of around 210 miles an hour here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 2/3 of the lap taken at full throttle. High-speed chicanes spell potential danger, especially at the infamous Wall of Champions. And watch out for overtaking into the hairpin and the final chicane. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about Mr. Monaco. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
They've been avoiding mistakes and had solid pace, so it's been a good season so far, but whether they can keep that up long-term remains to be seen.
Well, could today be the day we make it 3 wins this season? Of course, Michael Schumacher starting alongside me. He will want to do everything in his power to make sure he gets his 2nd win of the campaign. Let's not forget as well, if he wins and I come 2nd, we will be all tied as we head to the French Grand Prix at Le Castellet next weekend. But I'm looking forward to this one. I think the car feels good, and I cannot wait to see what we're able to do today. We're going to put a load of extra fuel in the car so we can push throughout the race. 4.5 laps extra. We will most likely burn through all of that. This Toyota is a heavy drinker inside this series. Ready then on the grid, waiting for those 5 red lights here for the Canadian Grand Prix. No hold whatsoever there. It is lights out. And away we go then, as Schumacher immediately going to try and get a run to my outside in towards turn 1. Kimi Räikkönen thought about having a look to the inside there, almost making it 3 wide through that first corner as we try and get the power down around the outside, all banging wheels with the German as we make our way out of the first couple of corners there. And Michael Schumacher powering through then into the lead of the GP. Supreme confidence. We've seen it before inside this game, just how quickly those Bridgestone tyres fire up. Our Michelin's definitely not there, as we almost understeered into the wall through turn 5.
Stay alert for threats around you.
Oh, that was a scary start though, but look at that, the straight line speed actually looking very good against that Ferrari car there, as maybe Schumacher just trying to settle into a rhythm. Maybe hasn't got his Ferrari up into like its maximum power setting or something like that early on. Of course, the technology on these cars back in the early 2000s was ridiculous. ABS, traction control, and all the other gizmos as well. Hence why these cars, despite being on grooved tyres, were still tremendously fast. Making our way though down in towards the final couple of corners. Looks like Fisichella has held on. In fact, I think the only movers inside your top 5 was between Schumacher and I. Nope, Ralf Schumacher now getting the jump on our Toyota teammate as well. But it is Michael Schumacher, myself and the Toyota, and Räikkönen that are already creating a little bit of a gap to the guys behind. Schumacher there, a little bit of a wobble through the final corner, almost put it into the Wall of Champions as we set a new fastest lap of the day.
Fastest lap of the race.
Thought about looking for a move down at that first corner, but we'll just back out of it for now. We'll wait for a better opportunity to come our way. Very early on, trying to apply the pressure. So we've had many a championship battle with Michael before, but this one might be the toughest for us to win. Don't know what happens to our teammate Giancarlo Fisichella, but his qualifying pace seems to be phenomenal at the moment inside this game. His race pace, absolutely terrible. As Alonso sets a new fastest lap of the day, he has now got the jump on our teammate as well then. So clearly the Williams man fighting back early on in the race, trying to get himself back up in the fight right towards the front. It honestly feels like 2004 inside this game. We've got a bigger, more similar fight to 2003 IRL. So Schumacher has a little bit of a wobble once again there. Really throws it in deep into the chicane. He's making quite a few little errors here early on, trying to get that Ferrari positioned exactly where he needs it. That's what you expect from the German when it comes to defending there. A big old squeeze, and all this is doing is allowing, Ralf Schumacher, Fernando Alonso, Kimi Räikkönen behind us to really start closing in. The other thing I'm a little bit nervous about is just how much fuel we're getting through. We're burning through nearly a quarter extra a lap, so 25% more than originally anticipated. 4.5 laps extra fuel would not see us through to the end very comfortably whatsoever. In fact, we'd be down to neutral by about lap 20.
0 seconds.
Come on, easy does it. Try and look after the fuel a little bit. Try and use Michael to help with that. Well, I'm really just focusing on managing the fuel early on in this race. We can get it down so we're only burning through about 0.1 extra a lap, so about 10% more than the game was originally anticipating. But I think if this is going to be the case around a lot of the high-power circuits, we're probably going to basically have to just completely brim the tank, put as much fuel in as we possibly can, So that way we can obviously just keep pushing. Schumacher did just set a new fast lap of the day, but we've been able to fire it up. And once again, I've got a little bit closer to him as out of the final corner, trying to get as close to him without hitting that wall of champion chicane. 1:16.666. A little bit scary in terms of the number, but the pace is good. Hopefully Michael's more scared of the pace than I am of what the lap time was. Oh, this might be the opportunity as we get to 1/4 distance, getting right up behind Schumacher's gearbox this time. Can we have a look for a move down into turn 1? We're going to send it over the curbing we go. And up then into the lead of the Grand Prix. Try and get the power down off of those first couple of corners as well. And Jeff, our engineer, loving that move as well then. Back up into P1 of the Canadian Grand Prix. But now we've got to try and stay here. Michael is still very, very quick in a straight line around some of the lap. But what I've actually noticed, interestingly, is the Toyota seems to burn through a load of fuel off of the corners. So we're clearly dumping a load of fuel into the system to try and give us the drive off of the corners. But at the top end, it's actually quite economical. And immediately then, Michael Schumacher, now he's got a slipstream, really trying to apply the pressure, gets basically alongside us. Well, down in towards that final chicane there, we make a little bit of a hash of it. So is Michael. We got yellows out for some reason. I think that might have just been all the Constantinoing up, and now suddenly 4 cars covered by less than a second here. You could throw a blanket over your top 4, but I think we've all came away unscathed. Oh, there we go, Michael Schumacher then. That's a very early pit stop in this Grand Prix, but we've seen Ferrari do this time and time again. Go for a very early first stop, try to undercut, and then go long until the end of the Grand Prix. I would still expect him to be one-stopping during this race there, but this is going to be interesting now because Raikkonen has just started to drop back ever so slightly. Have we got the pace over the McLaren? Has he just been patient early on in this race, waiting for things to filter out between Michael and I? You know, Kimi's a pretty clever racer. He'll know Michael and I, you know, have often had some beef, let's call it, inside this series. And already he's taken a few tenths out of me. There we go, Ralf Schumacher in the second Ferrari car back into the pit lane as well, as I think Raikkonen, is he about to set a new fast lap? No, just misses out there, but he's definitely looking racy at the moment. Of course, McLaren, those European upgrades have worked fantastically well. One in Barcelona, didn't quite have the pace in Baku, but that was because Ferrari basically finally got their act together. Oh, that's not a good sign. I was just thinking to myself that we haven't seen Ferrari setting any purple lap times yet, so I wasn't too worried about the undercut, but immediately Ralf Schumacher on 1:16.2. They're not going that much quicker than us, but if they are going quicker, of course, it won't take much for Michael Schumacher to get the undercut in this race. I think we're going to dive in the end of next lap, but very, very interesting so far this season, you know, because it's been so competitive up towards the front. It feels like every weekend you come in and there's kind of something new to learn. Like, for example, you got no idea. Like, I didn't think we were going to be competitive this weekend, but it seems to be Williams that are the big team struggling at the moment, as BAR seem to have kind of fallen off of kind of the front-runner battle. So Baumgartner, I'm sure that loss in Bahrain will sting even more now. But yeah, Raikkonen though still applying pressure to me.
We're boxing this lap.
He must be pretty much matching Ralf Schumacher's times a little bit further back, but Ralf Schumacher's not the Ferrari that we're too worried about. Of course, it's the other one that I'm very, very scared. Anyway, pitting in this lap. Come on, we need a good in lap. I'm an idiot. Oh, I forgot to pit. Raikkonen, I just saw his arrow behind us, and that kind of reminded me. I mean, somehow we've done a new fastest lap of the day, so at least we're going quite quickly then, but as Coulthard will stay out, Alonso, Raikkonen both into the pit lane then. I would assume Fisichella will want to.
3 seconds.
How is Fizzy 23 seconds back after 18 laps, man? I was going to say I don't want to pit the same lap as him and potentially screw him over, but now I'm not even worried. You can see he's already behind at least one of the Schumachers. But yeah, Michael, I believe that is now, getting a little bit held up behind Zob Baumgartner. So I guess that works for me. Box, 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 pit in, pit in, pit in. Box pit confirmed, stay, come in, do not stay out, do not stay out. I've got to make sure I get into that pit lane. Sometimes I have to do that to remind myself inside this game. But of course, yeah, these cars so good on the brakes where they weigh so little here. It's going to be really interesting though where we're going to come out relative to those Ferrari cars. As Baumgartner now definitely starting to slow them up a little bit. But they are ahead of Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso here, as basically everybody else into the pit lane then. So Michael Schumacher, I believe it is, he's going to be released up at the front of the order. So we're going to have to try and come back out of the pit lane. There is the Ferrari, as both Toyotas coming into the pit lane on the same lap. Careful that we don't understeer out wide. But we hold on to the lead for now then by just a second and a half. But of course we've got to try and fire up these tyres as well. They are so cold and so understeery. Well, with just over 10 laps to go then, Michael Schumacher has not given up in this race battle just yet. As now we get to deal with the fun stuff, trying to navigate our way around some of these lapped cars here. The second half of this race so far has been a little bit calmer than the first. But yeah, Michael has closed in about a second on me over these last couple of laps there, as trying to claim as much slipstream as I possibly can from Timo Glock. Just be very, very careful that he doesn't dive bomb me into the very next corner there, and I'm sure he'll get out of the way of his fellow German a little bit more easily than he did for us. Raikkonen as well, still floating less than 3 seconds away. Again, I don't think McLaren have had the out-and-out pace to be dominant here. But of course, all he's really waiting for is if something happens between Michael and me. 27 there, Mika Salo just getting out of the way of us. It cost me a little bit of time through that first sector, but yeah, Michael Schumacher, his pace towards the end of the afternoon is becoming a little bit relentless here, as the gap now down under 1 second. Has he just been biding his time? Has he been looking after his tyres, or maybe saving up a little bit of fuel, and has now got a bit in reserve to burn? The gap to Raikkonen as well now under 2 seconds, so I think this Toyota really just beginning to struggle on the harder compounded tyre towards the end of the afternoon. But yeah, I mean, Schumacher is closing in so much down the straights. 5 laps to go then, and I can still see 3 more lapped cars that I think we're going to have to navigate before the end of this GP there. I believe it's both Minardis, and I want to say the Jaguar as well, and maybe that's Rubens Barrichello. I think the first one we've got to try and find a way around is going to be Justin Wilson, but it's definitely one of the other things I've noticed as well, and it seems to be more from lapped cars than kind of actual competitors, but really struggle for understeer as you're trying to close up on these guys. Like I said, we followed Michael absolutely fine early on in the race, and obviously we've got a lot less fuel in the car, so it shouldn't be as much of an issue. Yeah, Justin Wilson, though, hopefully he's going to jump out of the way in just a moment. I believe it's Mark Webber just in front of him, so Jaguar, I mean, they have had a complete collapse when it comes to performance inside this game. It's a bit of a shame to see. Of course, you know, when they were Stewart Grand Prix back at the end of the 90s, had a couple of really good race battles with them. As what is Wilson doing? Get out of the way, man. He was just trying to put me in a wall. Hopefully he'll back out now, down in towards the final chicane, and doesn't dive bomb me into the corner. And again, I'm hoping that the AI maybe hold up Michael Schumacher just a little bit as well there. But that was incredibly scary late on in the day. Hopefully Mark Webber is going to make my life a little bit easier than the car before him. Yep, there you go. Mark jumping out of the way fairly clean and tidy. But Schumacher's still only 1 second behind. Any wrong move, the German is ready to pounce. Well, the blue flags, we can see them flashing for Marc Gené. They're down in towards turn 1. I'm hoping that the Austrian... Is he Austrian or was Marc Gené... Was Gené Spanish? No, I don't think he was. I don't know. Marc Gené, I'm pretty certain he was Austrian. Or still is Austrian, I assume. Either way, he needs to get out of my way. With just over 2 laps to go of this afternoon's proceedings. That's a little bit scary into a braking zone, but we have got around him. So hopefully now, no more lap traffic to deal with towards the end of the afternoon. Skimming the wall as we try and come out onto the back straight. We are really pushing this Toyota towards the end. I just don't want Michael to get an opportunity, to get a chance. He knows he needs this win if he wants to build up more title momentum. Well, 1 more lap to go then here of the Canadian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher, haven't had too many battles with him so far this year, but this one today has been race long, and I just can't help but feel Ferrari, their main problem is those early runs on the Bridgestones. The fact that their first set of tyres can't last that well means they're always on a bit of a back foot as we head into the second half of the GP. They need those softer compounded tyres just to take them a bit further into the race here. It's a gamble that just is not paying off for them. Because, of course, once they pit, you'd think they can undercut. But they just seem to get slowed up behind traffic. And it is not making the difference they need it to. We've got yellows out on this final lap, as I believe that might be Justin Wilson that has pulled over and has retired from the Grand Prix. But Schumacher really now digging deep towards the end of this race. The gap down to just 0.8 of a second between myself and the Ferrari man. We have seen him have tremendous straight line speed in this Grand Prix, especially down in towards that final chicane. So as long as we keep him out over a second, I think we should be safe here. Couple more lapped cars just in front, but I don't think we need to worry about them as we make our way out of the hairpin one final time. This win today gives me a whole lot more confidence, a whole lot more belief as we head into the second half of the season, because it's proven that we can win on not only a normal circuit, but also one that is very high power. Through the final corner at the Canadian Grand Prix, we're going to claim win number 3 of the year. Thank you very much.
That's a race win. You've really been great today.
They take the checkered flag then here in Canada in what has been another fabulous Grand Prix. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
Well, there we are then, by 0.6 of a second. There was not much to separate myself and Michael Schumacher throughout the entirety of that Grand Prix. Boy, oh boy, we had to work for it there. The German comes through for P2 then. I believe that's his 4th second place finish of the year, just ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. 1.2 seconds covering 3 cars from 3 different teams. This season, yeah, is absolutely going to be insane. Ralf Schumacher comes through for 4th. Fernando Alonso, a brilliant recovery drive from 9th on the grid to end up less than 10, well, only 5 seconds away from victory, just ahead of DC. Juan Pablo Montoya and Giancarlo Fisichella both struggled, and then it was both BARs rounding out your top 10. Jenson Button, Olivier Panis, Wurz and Trulli a little bit further back, and it was Justin Wilson that retired from the Grand Prix right at the very end of the afternoon. What does that do to our World Drivers' Championship? Well, it means now we've got a 14-point buffer over Michael Schumacher. Ralph still in 3rd there, just ahead of Alonso and Montoya. Räikkönen now ahead of DC, as you can see a bit further down. Then Zob Baumgartner, Anthony Davidson, and Giancarlo Fisichella. Again, it's going to be very, very difficult for those other drivers to score points this year. Constructors-wise, Ferrari continuing to extend their lead at the top. Williams still in P2 ahead of ourselves. McLaren now jump BAR, though, with another big result. And they've got a pretty healthy buffer at this stage of the campaign. Still just Minardi yet to score this season. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon ready for the French Grand Prix.